So I finally gotten my hands on the iPhone 14 and the iPhone 14 Pro Max. So in this video, I'll be talking about what is new on these phones and what the differences are from the previous generation to help you have a clearer picture as well. But first, let's start with the unboxing of the iPhone 14, and the variant that I chose was the blue color variant with 512GB of storage. Now the unboxing process was pretty familiar and straightforward, where in there you'll find a SIM ejector pin, the Apple stickers, and the usual paperwork. Then there's a USB-C to Lightning cable. Now as for the iPhone 14 Pro Max, the unboxing was the same, but of course in front of the box you'll see the new pill shape cutout to signify that this is the new iPhone 14 Pro screen. And instead of going with the Hero purple color variant for the Pro series, I have decided to go back to the silver because I really miss this particular color ever since I've been using the Alpine green version. And come on guys, you all know what my favorite color is, right? Then as for storage, I opted for the 1TB version since I shot many ProRes videos on my previous iPhone 13 Pro Max. And of course in there you'll find the SIM ejector pin, the Apple stickers, the paperwork and the USB-C to Lightning cable. Then both phones ship with the latest iOS 16.0.1. So let's first talk about the iPhone 14. Now the general assumption about this particular phone is that there are barely any updates. And I'm here to tell you there are. And the update comes in the form of where it really matters. Now firstly, while it's using the A15 Bionic chipset, the GPU has upgraded to a 5-core GPU, and it also has better thermal management too. So whether or not you're using the phone for gaming, multitasking or using the cameras for a really long time, rest assured that this device will run cool compared to the most of the time overheating Snapdragon 8 Plus Gen 1 chipset, and it performs not only better from a usability perspective, but even through benchmark tests as well, both for the single core and multi-core. Now another reason why it has better thermals is also because of the updated design, as the back glass is not fixed to the main housing anymore, so it makes the phone to have easier repairability. And speaking of which, the iPhone 14 series that comes here in Malaysia will have a physical SIM card slot, and it also has eSIM capabilities as well. Then looking at the cameras, this has been improved compared to the previous generation as well, with a faster aperture value of f1.5, hence you're getting way more light into your photos. In fact, it's up to 2 times or 49% increase in low light performance compared to the previous generation. Now coupled with Apple's new photonic engine, you're looking at a huge improvements in difference and better details overall for the software processing, like the portrait mode as well, to adjust the right part of the image to be in focus, which gives you more flexibility in post. And another area which has been heavily improved is the front camera, as it now has autofocus over here, which means that you can take tech-sharp selfie images even more quickly and easily than before, with an improved aperture value of f1.9. Now another massive software upgrade is the action mode feature, which gives you the most stable video shots, giving you a gimbal-like stabilization to improve further than the already really fantastic video quality that iPhone usually produces. And speaking of which, the cinematic mode has also been improved up to 4K 30 frames per second, which was incredibly nice to know. Then last but not least goes back to the hardware improvements with its crash detection feature, where there are further enhancements for gyroscopes, accelerometers and various sensors working hand in hand. Then some may ask, what if you drop the phone? Does it trigger the crash detection then? Well, it never will, as it uses a combination of all of the sensors, force feedback and even the microphone to immediately know that there is a car or even a bike crash instead of typically dropping your phone. And you also automatically give the longitude and latitude to the emergency contact as well. Then of course there's the bigger brother, the iPhone 14 Plus, which has a 6.7-inch display instead, which will be available later, so stay tuned on my hands-on video on that as soon as it arrives here in Malaysia. Alright, as for the Pro version of the iPhone 14 lineup, here's where all the Pro feature comes to play. Now other than the new features mentioned in the iPhone 14 earlier, first of all, the screen on the iPhone 14 Pro, or in this case the iPhone 14 Pro Max, has been heavily improved. Now first, it has up to 31% smaller than the notch-based system, and the screen has a super high brightness level up to a whopping 2000 nits, which no other consumer level smartphones or any smartphones which has this amount of nits of brightness. Now what's super sweet is that if you're playing or even recording in HDR or Dolby Vision content, the default adjustment for the screen brightness is up to 1600 nits. And since the iPhone 14 Pro series uses the LTPO display panel, it has a refresh rate or an adaptive refresh rate from 120Hz going all the way down to 1Hz. Hence, there is the always-on display. Now, this is not the regular always-on display that you see on other smartphones, because instead of typically giving you a limited color to the always-on display, it actually uses the same wallpaper, dims down the overall screen, maintaining the similar colors that your lock screen has, including wallpapers as well, which is definitely better than any other always-on display that I've seen. And yes, we shall see whether or not it really does affect the battery life, as some reports have said, when I use this phone daily. Next, the obvious upgrade is of course the new pill-shaped cutout in the middle of the top of the screen, also known as the dynamic island, which is a brilliant move by Apple to embrace that so-called notch that have been bothering people for years, that gives it more usability, where it consolidates the notifications, alerts and activities, including background activity as well. And based on some quick tests on them, it worked nicely, for example through Apple Music, where there is the album cover towards the left and the waveform towards the right. And if you're running a timer, there is the progress circle on the left and the timer on the right. Now there are lots of apps which works very well with the dynamic island, which are listed down for you at the description for you to know which current software works well, as there are interactions for the dynamic island for single touch and press and hold touching. And you can even open up to 2 APIs or apps to get a further interaction when you swipe up and head on to the home screen, which is almost like having an app multitasker on top, since it does split both apps, where for example you can put 2 apps in the dynamic island, for example Apple Music and the timer over on the top as well. Now I am definitely looking forward to using this when I use the phone more as my daily driver, so I'll go deeper into my usability over there, so stay tuned for my full video review. Then as for the cameras, here's where you can see the immediate differences in size on the camera bump, as we're looking at a huge camera upgrade in the main lens with a 48 megapixel f1.7 aperture, and the other lenses like the telephoto lens have been upgraded to a better aperture value, hence performing in low light situations for the lenses as well. Now for those of you who are worried about how big the file sizes are on the 48 megapixel sensor, well, you don't have to worry about that, as it does pixel bind it to 12 megapixel image, hence you will be getting a sharper and a way more detailed image without having a huge file size. Now one of the common questions that people ask is that if it's possible to take photos on that dedicated 48 megapixel mode, and the answer is yes, where you can do this by toggling the Apple ProRAW in the camera format settings. And thanks to this 48 megapixel sensor, there's now the option for a 2x zoom as well, alongside the 3x zoom, which uses the 48 megapixel sensor to crop into the image, which in return gives you an optical zooming capabilities. So with this, there's a total of 4 different camera lenses, or shall I say the camera focal length, for you to choose from. Then finally, from a hardware perspective, once again the Pro models comes with the latest and greatest A16 Bionic chipset, which currently is the best performing chip compared to any other smartphones out right now. And compared to the A15 Bionic chipset, not only it has faster CPU, but it uses 20% lower power as well. So that's it, my hands-on experience and what's new on the iPhone 14 and the iPhone 14 Pro series smartphones. Now I will be doing a separate video reviews on each phone to experience the phone daily, and as usual from every aspect, to let you know exactly who these phones are for and which suits your needs. Now, in case you did not know that the iPhone 14 series will be available in Malaysia this coming Friday. And with this, do let me know what exactly you would like for me to test on each of the phones in the comment section below. And as usual, I'll answer to your questions during my full video review of the phones.